All right, Mark, I'm going to show you something here on your valves. This is a good cylinder. This is the good side. And I want to point out here, I'm going to rotate this engine a little bit. I'm going to show you what a valve guide looks like. Okay. And that's a valve guide right here inside of this spring. You take a look down inside of there. It's a little hard to see, but right down right there, that's the top of the valve guide. Okay, and just kind of see how far down that is. Okay, now we're going to look at the one up here for this valve. See if I can get the spring to kind of extend a little bit on this one, make it easier to look at. It's actually not really going to be that easy to look at, but those are about the same. So if you look at where the top of that valve guide is over there, that's the top of it. Okay, it's about the same as the one on the bottom there. This one's compressed now, so it's a little more difficult to see, but yeah, extended out there. Okay, so that's where that is. See that? Just make note of that. This is on the right side of the engine here. Now let's go to the left side. That's where the problem is. This cylinder is producing about 30 psi pressure, okay, less than the other side. And if we look at this, I'm going to rotate this so we can see it a little bit better. If I can. Okay, so that's kind of extended out there. Just going to get this in the right spot. Okay, make sure it's loose. Okay, so that valve right there should be closed. And in the video I sent you, this valve is leaking internally, and it's letting pressure out when it's not supposed to be. But if you look and see where the top of that valve guide is compared to the other side, it's right there. Okay, so this valve guide it crept up, or it wanders, so it's kind of slid up out of the head. Okay, so it's like pressed into the head, and on this one it's a little hard to see. Comparing it, it's a little difficult to see where exactly that valve guide is, but it's back in that way, more toward the engine, right? See that compared to that one, and this one's, because I keep rotating the engine, it's harder to see. But when I was adjusting the valves, I noticed that. Okay, so that gap right there is about between kind of this little silver plate right here and then the top of the valve guide right there is a much less distance gap than, say, this one or the two on the other side. So that has crept out. Now what I'm preparing to do is I'm going to put this back together real quick and try to start it up, because I did do the valve gaps were off, because you can adjust them right here. Like when these are flopping around, it's not set right now, but the way it works is if you get them in a certain position to where they're both loose here. Okay, just like right about here should be it. Okay, right here they should both be loose. Yeah, they're both loose now, and that's where you gap them, and you get the proper gap right here. You adjust it right here, and so I got that correct. And then so it might help it out a little bit, but the thing is, this cylinder here has less pressure to work with when it's firing, when the combustion's going on. Okay, the one on the right is okay, it's running good. And it'll even power this machine. It'll power the blades, and you can drive it and everything, and it cuts. But you will notice it, you probably did, when you pull the PTO button up there, it kind of bogs down and dies because that one cylinder can't handle all that pressure or all that load right away. So basically, if it's a 15 horsepower, then it's like a 7 horsepower engine trying to run this big machine, where it can't handle it on its own with one cylinder. But once it gets running, it's just that momentum. It's got momentum and it's running. Once it gets over that hump, when you're turning on those blades, if it doesn't die and it stays running, it comes back up to speed, and then you can actually use it. So I'm gonna put this back together and hope for the best. If not, this cylinder head here, so this cover got to come off, and it's like this whole head, all right, the top part of that cylinder, what goes on top of the left cylinder there, it's called the head. That whole head's got to come off, all right. And that's similar to, like, a head is this thing right here on your other mower, which I'm getting ready to get a head gasket for. Here was your head on this one. I've already cleaned this off, but here was your head gasket right here. See where it's kind of damaged right there at the bottom, and this is the way it was broke, just like that. And that's what was the problem with this one. So that's the head right there. And see, these are your valves inside, and then the rocker arms, just like over there on yours, on the Great Dane. Yeah, so that whole thing, just like that head's off that machine, to fix this one properly, this head's gonna have to come off this machine to be able to see what even is wrong. We can see already, though, like I pointed out, that valve guide has crept out like that, and that very well could be causing it to have less compression. So I'm gonna just slap this back together real quick. It won't take too much, and I'm gonna try to run it and see if it still bogs down real bad when engaging the PTO blade. I'll let you know.